Welcome everybody to the February GPS Training Podcast. It's myself, John, from GPS Training, and I've got Andy with me again this week.
Hello.
So hope you all had a good month. We're again streaming the podcast live on Facebook, so if you do access to Facebook, go and look at what we look like, and it will also be making a copy of it and uploading it to YouTube. So if you want to see what we look like and see us recording the podcast live, have a look either on our Facebook page, which is GPS Training UK, or alternatively have a look on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, let's get on with today's podcast. In today's podcast, we are looking and chatting over the following. Garmin Express, is this the way forward? We have an in-the-field look at the Garmin Topo Pro Mapping, the 1 to 25,000 mapping from Garmin that has off-road routable data within national parks. We have Andy's Top Tips, which is both SatMap and Garmin. And the big debate for this month is walking with your GPS. Should we have it set as track or north up? We're going to discuss an offer we've got in regard to the online resource, like our online training area, where you can get free access for 1 month. Garmin Express. What is it and what can we do with it? So this is something that's come to the fore over the last couple of months, Andy. So what is Garmin Express and what can we do with it?
So Garmin Express is a free software application that you download from the internet to interface with your Garmin GPS device or watch. What Garmin Express used to be used for mainly was the fitness devices, the fitness watches, for connecting your fitness watch for the first time to a Garmin account. But what we're finding now, Garmin Express does a lot more features, especially with some of the newer Garmin GPS devices. So it's definitely an application that you want to download to your computer if you have got a Garmin.
And it is an application, isn't it? It's an application we need to download onto your PC or Mac.
Yeah, it's PC or Mac friendly. If you simply go on whatever internet browser you use and type in Garmin Express software for Windows or Garmin Express software for Mac, you'll see a download straight away that you can a link to a download.
Right.
Put it on your computer. Once it's loaded on your computer, you'll find it in your programs. The icon actually looks like a sort of world globe in a little sort of orangey teardrop symbol. That's the icon for Garmin Express. So you get the Garmin Express on your computer and then open it up. And then we can talk through what you can do with this Express software.
Yeah. So the things we can do are, first thing is registering units, isn't it? So if you get a new GPS unit, you plug it in, it will detect that unit, doesn't it?
Yeah. So Garmin Express, you first open it up, you haven't got a unit registered. When you plug your Garmin GPS device into your computer using the USB cable, you'll see on Garmin Express there's a little plus symbol where you click Add Device, and you can change how your computer sees your device, the name, and it lets you either create a Garmin account if you haven't already got one, or if you've already got a Garmin account, you can use Garmin Express to link your new unit to your account by adding your email address in.
Fantastic. And then the next thing is it updates the unit software, doesn't it?
So when you first connect a GPS device unit to Garmin Express, the first thing it will do is check for updates. It will say checking for updates, and it will prompt you if there's any updates available.
And in the past, to update GPS units, we used to have something called Garmin Web Updater. Can we still download Garmin Web Updater, or is that gone?
No, there's two programs that still get used for updating your software. John's mentioned Web Updater, which, again, you search Garmin Web Updater, you'll find it on the internet as a download. Actually, in Garmin Basecamp, you have options with the device heading on Windows or on a Mac. You can highlight your device. But to be honest, we find Garmin Express far easier. Just it prompts you that there's updates there when you connect your GPS device. So I'd use Garmin Express to update the firmware in your unit.
Brilliant. And then what else can we do? So now the units that have got Topo Active mapping, which are the eTrex 25, 35, 750T, and 20X and 30X as well, we can update that mapping, can't we, through this? This
so I don't know if anyone's aware, if you've bought a unit off us, John's mentioned the range of units there that come with this Topo Active European mapping. The 20X and 30X have the Western Europe, and if you've got a eTrex Touch 25T or 35T from us and the 750T, they have both Western and Eastern Europe. Using Garmin Express, when it checks for updates, it'll tell you if there's any firmware updates for your unit. It could be language updates, things like that, but you'll also get a prompt if there's an update for your European map, and those updates are free for life. The one thing I would mention, if you've got a unit with the Western European mapping only, so that's the eTrex 20X, 30X, just follow the prompts for updating. But if you've got a unit with both the Western and Eastern European, we find if you try and update both map sets at the same time, you can have problems. It takes a long time. We recommend when you get a prompt to say there's updates for your Western or Eastern European mapping, you just select one first, do that, and then when you plug it in again, it'll say there's an update, say, for the Eastern European. You do the two separately.
Right, that's okay. But it's not the Ordnance Survey mapping, this is the Topo Active
you don't get free updates for your Ordnance Survey mapping. That's a one-off license. This is for any of you who have bought a unit that has Garmin's new Topo Active Western or Eastern European mapping.
And to clarify, each X20, X30, X25, 35 and 750T Oregon are the ones there. Okay, the other thing, and this is why this has come to the fore, especially this last week, is using the Garmin Express, we can connect the Oregon 700 range to Wi-Fi. Because we've had a few problems with people, haven't we, with this on the traditional way of doing it.
So any of you who have bought an Oregon, one of the new Oregon 700 or 750 GPS devices from us, you've probably noticed on your device there's a setting in settings called Wi-Fi, and it lets you connect your Oregon to your Wi-Fi network at home for syncing data, getting weather updates, if you're into live geocaching, things like that. We've had a few calls from customers recently that when they try to manually add their Oregon 700 series into the Wi-Fi network, it's blocking it. And we find some routers, it could be the security settings, there's various reasons it could be. But what we found is if you use Garmin Express, it's a function we didn't realise was there till recently. So again, use this Garmin Express, register your unit, sync the updates. There's actually a setting in Garmin Express called Tools and Setup. And when you click on Tools and Setup, you see network settings, and it allows you with your device device plugged in, as long as your computer's on the Wi-Fi network at home that you want to set up your GPS to, you can select Wi-Fi network, put in your password for your Wi-Fi network once you connect it, and then when you unplug your GPS device, your Wi-Fi network's then set up, and it seems, to be honest, we've had 100% success. So it's just another way to put your Wi-Fi settings into your Oregon.
And the nice thing about this Garmin Express, because it's kind of this next generation of software, it doesn't prompt you to do Wi-Fi unless you have a GPS that's compatible with it, is it? So that's the nice thing about it. It knows, it reads what unit it is. Right, you've got an Oregon 700 range. Right, let's get it onto the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so you'll find, depending on what unit you've got, you go into tools and settings, you'll have different options for different units. So the Oregon 700, 750, you will see that option in the tools on Garmin Express to do Wi-Fi settings.
Fantastic. And then the final thing with Garmin Express is we can manage our Connect IQ apps, can't we? And this is Oregon 700 range only, is it, Andy?
700 and 750 again. There's an app called the Garmin Connect app, which normally you put on a mobile device like a tablet or a phone. We have lots of videos on our online resource talking about the mobile app. What's nice again from this Garmin Express, once you've set up your unit using Garmin Express, there's an option for the Oregon 700, 750 to say, connect to my Garmin Connect account. And when you click on that, it lets you set up this Connect account, which has extra information that it syncs from your unit. It's the same app that you have on a mobile phone or tablet, but you can then open up that exact same app on your computer. So it does a lot of things, this Garmin Express, so it is definitely worth
it's certainly the way forward. I think by the looks of it's the way that Garmin are going forward. And if you look back to a previous podcast, we talked about the IQ apps on previous ones. I think it was one when Tom was here, I think we talked about, I can't remember, I think it was maybe our first or second podcast, we talked about the IQ apps that you can install.
So one thing we're starting to do over the coming weeks, we're going to do lots of new videos on using Garmin Express, and we'll be adding them onto the online resource. So any of you have got access to our online training resource, you'll be able to see those videos on the Garmin Express. We'll be adding them over the coming weeks, so just keep an eye out for that new section.
So that's Garmin Express. So if you've not got Garmin Express, just download it. It's free from Garmin. You just download it, and we can just go over the things there. So we can register our units on Garmin Express. We can update our unit software. We can update the Topo Active mapping. It's very useful for the Oregon 700 range. We can connect it to the Wi-Fi, and then we can manage the Connect app and also the Connect IQ apps that we can download within it. So again, it's something Annie was just saying there, we're putting quite a bit in the online resource. We've just started doing some videos this week, and we're going to do some more videos next week just to kind of get everybody au fait with that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the online resource a little bit later in the podcast today. The next thing in the podcast today is we're going to put the Garmin Topo Pro 1-25,000 maps through their paces. A bit windy, and we're in the Peak District today, so we've just been visiting the Youth Hostel in the Peak District because we've just been wrecking for a new GPS training course we've got in February there. So it's the first time we've had a course there, so we've been visiting that this morning, and we thought we'll tie it in with a nice walk, why not? But we stayed in Buxton last night and we woke up to snow, which is interesting. So we had snow in Buxton this morning. Thankfully, as we drove over to Eyam, the snow has kind of melted, but we're left with a misty, wet, windy, horrible February day. So, not deterred by this, because we're all hardened walkers, aren't we? We decided to put the Topo Pro Mapping from Garmin through its paces. Now, the Topo Pro Garmin Mapping is, let me start by saying it's £349. We'll get that out of the way before we start. It's £349. So what's so special about it? It's 1 to 25,000 mapping of the whole of Great Britain, but within national parks it have what's called routable data in there. So what's routable data? Routable data gives us this turn-by-turn experience. So you can literally click on a location you would like to go to, and your GPS will route you via the footpaths or the roads to get to that location. So it's superb. It's a great piece of kit. Now, what I did before we headed out here yesterday on Garmin Basecamp, I created a 8-mile walk. So all I did was click 3 points on the map. I realised we started from the youth hostel, so I clicked on the youth hostel for my starting point. I then clicked literally about 3 miles north of there, and click that. The GPS, the via Basecamp and the Topo Pro Mapping, I got routed via the footpaths to that location. I then went across a little bit to the west, created about 2 miles further over, created another waypoint, and then created a waypoint back in Eyam village. So by just creating 3 waypoints on the map, I created this circular walk, which is, I think it's just under 8 miles in length. And that's what we're out walking now. So we set off. It's a bit sweltry underfoot, to say the least, but it's been fantastic. It's a really nice. Key thing really that I've noticed with this mapping is A, how easy it was to plan. And secondly, at the top of the map page, instead of having my compass rose, I've now got trail, turn left in 2.0 miles. So it's kind of a route card. If you tap on that at the top, a route card falls out for the whole of your route, which is really nice, really great feature. And then you can see exactly where you're going to go to. So you can tell you how you're going to walk along this path for X number of miles, and then you're going to turn right onto another path or onto another road or something like that. So it's great. It's really great, and it's taking me where I would want to go. So if I plan this on Garmin Basecamp in what we call a direct manner, clicking on a corner, making a waypoint every time there's a corner in a path, I would have gone the same route that this mapping is taking us. So it's been a good experience, and it's really good. So I'm going to carry on, head on our way. So it's a little bit blustery. Thankfully the rain stopped for the time being, but I'm liking it. I'm actually running this on the Oregon 750. Again, you can run it on any GPS units you want, but I'm running my Oregon 750 today, and it's nice. It's a different when we've been navigating using a direct manner for a number of years. It's nice to have something slightly different. So got some cracking views. We're up above the village of Eyam, looking down on it, and that's absolutely stunning views. Even for February, we've got some stunning views. So it's nice to get out, isn't it, in winter, and get a few miles under your belt. So I'll catch up with you in a little bit as we get on further down the trail. Always fasten the catches when you're out in the countryside, aren't you? So I've been using the Oregon 750 since it first came out. Actually, you've seen my review online. I got the GPS units. First day it came out, we actually going to mega big geocaching event that weekend. So I unpacked the box, played with it, did a review of it. It's the first time I've ever said I like this unit, so I'm going to keep it. So I actually kept this unit, and I've been using it ever since. It's performed really well, and it's lovely because we've had software updates. I love how it connects to your mobile phone. I love how it connects to your Wi-Fi, and you do I do a little bit of geocaching, not an awful lot, but it's got this wireless geocaching on it, which means that when you're out and about, you can say, I want to go geocaching now, and using your phone data, it just downloads all those geocaches onto it. So it's a cracking feature. So I think the Topo Pro that we've got here is a worthy addition. You'll see that we bundle it in with units, or you can buy it separately, but I think it's a worthy addition. a little bit of snow crunching. What do you expect in February in the Peak District? So a little bit of snow last night, which is nice. Certainly a great time of the year to get out and do a bit of walking, isn't it? So second to none. I also walked between Christmas and New Year with the Topo Pro Mapping and that routable data. I really liked it. I did some, it's a little bit less, well, it's quite mild, wasn't it, at times between Christmas and New Year. So I did some summits in Northumberland National Park, and I can literally just, there's somewhere based near where we're based in Rothbury, Northumberland, called the Simonside Hills. And it's really nice. I stood at the bottom of Simonside in the car park and I literally just moved the map to the summit and tapped on the summit, and my GPS routed me via the footpaths up to the top of Simonside Hills. Now, I walk there all the time. I've walked there for many years now, and it took me the route I would have normally gone. So the route I know and would have taken this Topo Pro Mapping routed me in exactly the place I would like to go. So you can't get much better than that, can you, really? And I think it's really opened up there. What I also did then is, when I got to the top of the summit, I then just clicked across the ridge, and my GPS routed me across the ridge, and then I stopped my navigating when I got there. I then had made a waypoint similar to what I've done today, back at my car, and just went where to. Selected my car, and my GPS navigated me back to my car. So using that routable data, I think, was a superb feature, and it's a very different way than navigating, because traditionally you're having to plan a route on your GPS beforehand. You can do it in route planning. It's something we go over on the webinars and come over on our training courses and on the online resources videos, showing you how to create a route on your GPS unit. But it is quite fiddly. There's no two ways about it. I always say it's best to pan out a little bit, get an overview of where you want to go, then get in there and start planning that route. But you can only really realistically plan 3 or 4 miles, then you're completely lost of exactly where you are on that map, because you have to zoom in so far to get there. But by using the Topo Pro, you can, I want to click on the summit, it routes you to the summit. I want to click along the ridge, it routes you along the ridge. I want to click back to my car, it creates back to the car. You can quickly do that, and you're not going to create those waypoints at all those corners. So, and it's a great addition, and the way that a modern GPS unit works, by also giving you this route card of turn left after this long, turn right after that, is what we've all been really wanting for a number of years. So I think it's a good addition. I know if you heard the podcast before Christmas, we talked about our Christmas presents we'd all wanted, money was no object. I did choose the Topo Pro Mapping. I always said at the time I was a bit too mean to buy it for myself, but after using it between Christmas and New Year, and then now in the Peak District, I really do like it, and I think I'll be purchasing one myself. So if I'm happy to put my hands in my pocket, hopefully that's a good stamp of approval. And I also like that extra 125,000 mapping detail that we get. So yeah, all in all, it's a good piece of kit. We're in a bit of a lane now, so the wind's kind of shelters a lovely it's limestone flooring on the track. I won't like to drive up in my car, but it's great for walking on. The ground's been fairly frozen underfoot, which is good, so it'll be nice and firm underfoot. But the GPS is not a fault, I say. I'm very impressed by the route it's chosen. Literally by clicking 3 waypoints on the map, and it's routed me exactly where I would like to have gone to. So I think the wind's just died down a little bit now as well, which is nice. We've been walking a few hours now with this Topo Pro. It's really quite reassuring. Again, it's quite alien for us now. We've been walking this direct manner from waypoint to waypoint ever since Garmin brought out ordnance survey maps on a GPS unit, and even before on the old topographical mappings that we used to use. So it's been quite alien to get this turn by turn routing and having the confidence that it's taken us the right way. I say I've really liked, in the past we normally navigate with that arrow on the top of the map, or map page, or actually on our compass page, but again I appreciate it does count you down on the compass page till your next waypoint and tells you how long it will be before you before you reach that waypoint. But you actually don't know which direction you're going to go until you reach the waypoint and the arrow changes direction. With these route arrows at the top of the map page on this Topo Pro Mapping, it tells you you're going to turn right onto a track in 1.3 miles or whatever. And that's really quite reassuring. It's been quite strange to get my head around that, but actually I quite like that. And then of course you've still got your details on your compass page telling you what time you're going to arrive back at your vehicle or however, or the finish of your walk. So that's been quite unusual to see that. I've really liked that feature, and I think it'd be hard to go back to my arrow at the top of my map page just pointing me in the direction once I've used this. It's also been nice to have that extra detail with the 125,000 mapping, which we've always craved, but actually we've not really bought because it's been expensive. Yeah, it's still expensive, but it's nice to have that extra detail on that. But I think the key thing is the turn-by-turn routing this GPS gives us. It just makes your route planning either on Garmin Basecamp or either when you're out walking just so much easier than what we've had in the past when we've been planning routes on our GPS. So overall it's been good. Wind's dropped down a little bit, which is nice. Still a bit of water under our feet, but hey, it's good to get out walking, isn't it? Perhaps some sheep look a bit sorry. It's been a long old winter for them, and I think they'll be looking forward to spring, which is just around the corner. It's hard to think that in 6 weeks' time they're going to be lambing, and spring will be well and truly sprung. I've noticed a few snowdrops when we've been out walking today, so yeah, maybe it's just the miserable Peak District weather that we've experienced that's made us feel a little bit less spring-like. So overall, I've really enjoyed walking with this Topo Pro Mapping. We've kind of put it through its paces by planning routes on Garmin Basecamp, and it navigates us along those routes by just, as we said earlier on, just pressing 3 or 4 waypoints. It navigates us to those waypoints, but via all the footpaths in between. So much easier to plan on Garmin Basecamp. We then stopped about, 3/4 of the way through that process. I stopped my navigating and I just put in go-to and my car, which is back at the youth hostel where we started from, and my GPS navigated back via the paths to get there and the road, because we actually came into the village, didn't we? So again, can't fault it altogether. I say I really like the compass pages giving us the information I still want, which is how long it's going to take me to get to the end. I can't see any downsides on it this moment in time, except I suppose it doesn't work outside the national park, but it's going to be critical to say, well, actually it doesn't work everywhere. I do like the 125,000 mapping. I think it's a great addition to my GPS. So yeah, altogether, well done Garmin. So hope you've enjoyed a slightly different podcast story out in the hills of the Peak District in February. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that short piece where we put the Topo Pro Mapping through its paces in the Peak District. If you need to know any more about the Topo Pro Mapping, don't hesitate and get in touch. Next thing on the podcast this month is Andy's Top Tip. We have a Garmin and a Sat Map Top Tip. I know these are very popular. So Andy, what's your Garmin Top Tip for this month?
Yeah, Garmin tip, it's a one we've done a few times before, but in the last few weeks, due to a number of calls we've had from customers, we think it's very, very relevant to give you this tip again. On your Garmin GPS device, most of the devices we sell with an Ordnance Survey map card that is a little micro SD card in the back of your unit, sits behind a metal clip behind your batteries. Now, if you've bought a unit from us with the Ordnance Survey 1 to 50 mapping, that map card is worth £200 on its own, so it's a valuable map card. If you've bought the new Topo Pro mapping that John's talking about with this routable trail data, the 1 to 25 mapping, that's worth £350. So it's a valuable micro SD card that you don't want to lose out of your unit. What we find is sometimes when customers are changing batteries in your unit, especially if your hands are cold this time of year, you accidentally catch this little metal clip that slides up and down to lock the micro SD card in the back of your GPS unit. What we do with GPS training on all our training units, a simple little square of sellotape. Once we know the map card's locked in and the clip slid down to the locked position, we put a little bit of sellotape over the metal clip with your micro SD card in. and it stops you accidentally catching it. And then, because if you drop that little black micro SD card on the ground, trying to find it is a nightmare. So it's just a little tip, you know, take the batteries out of your unit, your Garmin unit. You'll see the little micro SD card behind it's like a little chrome clip. Make sure it's locked down in place. There's an arrow up and down to say lock it open. Just a little bit of clear sellotape over the metal clip.
And just to point out there, because we do get a few, but this happens, as Andy says, this is a phone call that happens, I'm going to say most weeks, if not every week, where people will say, I've lost this, but then they often will say, oh, I've still got the bigger card, but actually that bigger card you got is actually just an adapter, isn't it? There's nothing on that.
Yeah, if you lose that micro SD card, that's it, it's gone. You've lost a physical product, it can't be replaced. When we send out the units to our customers, we put that card in the back of the unit for you, but you do get the original packet that the map card was in. And what customers often ask is, there's a large SD card in that packet that has no data on it. It's just a storage card. If you ever had to take your card out and put it in storage because you've put a different map card in, say for another country, that's where you should store your card. There's a little slot at the top of that blank large SD adapter.
So if you lose the micro SD card, that's it. Sadly, you've got to get another one. Okay, Andy, your sat map top tip for this month?
Yeah, sat map top tip. Keep your sat map units like a computer. You should check for updates on a regular basis. Now, what's nice with the new Sat Map Active 20, you can do this without having to plug your GPS device into a computer. So any of you who have bought your new Active 20 device, you've got a screen called Wi-Fi. Link it to your Wi-Fi network, and then there's an option on that screen to check for software updates. The nice thing about software updates is it could add features, it could improve something that's already on the unit. As we know, it can fix bugs from time to time, but I like the fact it'll add new features. And the reason I mentioned this as a tip today, the SatMap Active 20 unit in the last software update, which is version 3.11.671, you can check what version you've got in your unit in Setup and About. They've added a new feature, a feature called Search. So from making sure your unit's updated, you get new features. And this new search feature, we've just put a video on our online training resource, and it's a great feature that lets you search for information in your device when you're out and about. The one that we've been using is called Mountains and Fells. So you can type in the name of a mountaintop and it'll move the map to that mountaintop if you download that data set. So just keep your unit up to date using the Wi-Fi screen and look at these new features. And
again, Annie was just talking about that in the online resource. Just put a video up this week in the online resource. If you go into units and then Sat Map Active 20, I think we put about a third or fourth up from the bottom. We decided there's a video there showing you around that new search
primary search screen, new primary screen search function. So please have a look on the online resource at that new feature.
Fantastic. Thank you for your top tips. And if there's anything you would like us to give top tips on in future podcasts, don't hesitate and get in touch. The big debate this month is walking with your GPS. Should we have it as north up or track up? So before we jump into this debate, we need to clarify what the difference is. So Andy, what's the difference between north up and track up?
So in both Garmin and SatMap GPS devices, you have a setting on the map screen, either in settings or from the map screen, where you can say that you want the map to be set as trail up or track up, which is basically means as you walk, as long as you've calibrated your electronic compass, if you've got a device with an electronic compass, as you move with your GPS device and turn your body, the map will actually move with you and turn the way you're pointing. So the trail at the top, so the way you're heading, it lines the map page up for you.
That's it. So you're looking up the screen as such, aren't you?
To the way you're heading. Again, this is with the units with the electronic compasses, and as long as you've calibrated the electronic compass, when you're stationary, it'll show you the way you're heading. And then the units that haven't got an electronic compass, as you're moving, it'll show the way you're heading. So that's trail up.
And then north up?
So you have an option in your GPS units again, or whether it be SatMap or Garmin, you can set your GPS map page to be north up, which means as you move, there's a little indicator. Certainly on the Garmin, you have a little triangle indicator showing where you are. That'll move and point the way you're heading, but the map page will always be pointing in a north direction. On the SatMap units, you have a little circle showing where you are, but the map page itself will be pointing always in north if you've set it to north up.
Right, so that's on both SatMap and Garmin. We've got this option of setting as track up or north up. Is there any battery saving benefits of either?
Yeah, I've not noticed a massive difference, but there is definitely some benefit there. If you do have the unit set in north up, use a little bit less battery, because the computers in both SatMap and Garmin aren't having to work out which way to line the map up. So it does use a little bit less battery. I don't know how much it actually saves. It's not a function I tend to go into, but you can't, if your batteries are getting low at the end of the day and you haven't got spare batteries, changing that map page to north up will save a little bit of battery.
Is there any other benefits or downsides from one to the other, do you think, or not? Is it just personal preference?
Personally, I prefer trail up because, you know, when I walked with a paper map, I'll still carry a paper map. I still go out with paper maps. What I would do with a paper map is use my compass to line up the paper map with the way I'm heading. So as I walk, I can see what's coming up on the map. So to be honest, on the GPS screen, I prefer when I'm walking to see the map on the screen pointing the way I'm heading.
Yeah.
But you get that situation where you maybe stop and you want to read something on the map, a place name, and what we all do with our paper map, we would have turned our paper map round so it's, people say the right way up, but you know what, you know, so you can read the right thing with it north up. So on your GPS device, changing it to north up to read a place name is great, and then I would normally put it back to trail up. But John's right, it is personal preference. I have some customers who prefer, you know, they walk with their maps in north up and just move their thumb along the map as they get to various points. So there is customers who will walk with their GPS as north up. It is a personal preference.
So you would prefer trail up or track?
I'd definitely walk with trail up because I want the GPS to do the work for me and show me the way I'm heading by putting it in trail up.
I'm exactly the same. I would always walk with trail up. My GPS is always set that way. I've never ever changed it. It's something I would change during my first setup and keep it that way because I think it's nice to see where you're going. And again, you're down usually the bottom quarter of it, and then you used to got the whole map in front of you as well, so you can see clear further ahead of where you're going. So hopefully that's the big debate this week, which we prefer, either north up or trail or track up. And we've both decided that for once that we agree that we'll both have our GPSs set up, so it's trail up and we're seeing exactly where we're going. Next thing on the GPS Training Podcast this month is free access to the online resource. We very rarely give anything away for free, so we thought we'd better mention it on the podcast. So you've maybe heard us talk about the GPS Training Podcast either in past podcasts or in our newsletter. We get our newsletter. So firstly, Andy, what is the GPS Training online resource?
Our online training resource is an excellent utility for getting you started with your GPS device and continue learning with your GPS device and the planning software. We give it for free if you buy a unit from us. You get it free for a year, normally £25. And when you log into that online training resource from our website, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, you see absolutely loads of videos on using your unit, using the software for your unit. And we keep it fresh. You don't just, you know, if Garmin or SatMap don't add a new feature, it doesn't mean that we're not adding new videos, because we continually add. There's a new section called Top Tips. So every week or two we'll add a new video on tips. So it's always getting added to. But as we mentioned earlier, we talked about this new SatMap feature called the search function. So we've now added a video. So if manufacturers change or add new features for the GPSs or software, we'll add new videos to this online training resource.
And it's something we work on all the time. So if we get a number of questions about certain things, right, let's create a video about it. Let's put it in the online resource, either within the unit or Garmin Basecamp, or alternatively, we'll put it in these top tips we keep fresh. If you get our newsletter, you see there's top tips at the bottom, and we link to those every week. So firstly, as we've now explained what the online resource is, how do we get to the online resource? If you go to our website, which is gpstraining.co.uk, and across the top menu bar you'll see it says online resource. Just click on there. It actually takes you to a different website. It's a different website altogether. So if you've got a username and password for GPS training, it's a different username and password for the online resource. And when you're on the online resource homepage, even before you log in, down at the bottom there's a little video, which Andy's just done this week actually, which shows people inside that online resource. So if you don't have access to it, you can click on the little video and Andy kind of shows you around. It's like a screen grab of him showing you around the online resource. Normally £25 a year. But if you bought a GPS unit from ourselves, it's free for the first year. But as we're saying, in February, for the rest of this month, and it will stop at the end of the month, we're giving you free access for 1 month. So if you want to take up on the offer, just drop us an email. It's office@gpstraining.co.uk, and in the subject line put free access to online resource February offer. If you get the GPS Training Top Tech and Team News Friday newsletter, you'll see there's a link in there to a landing page where you can put your own email address in there and we'll sign you up. Just be aware, because we don't normally do this, we're having to sign people up manually. So if you send us an email at 7 o'clock on a Saturday evening, more than likely you will get signed up till Monday mid-morning, late early afternoon, by the time we've caught up on everything. So it's not an automated process because we don't normally do this. So if you do sign up, just be patient. You won't be able to access it straight away. We will manually sign you up. And our thoughts are, if you look inside the online resource, look at all the top tips. If you've had a month of it, surely you're going to think that's a great resource. And I'll be honest with you, we're doing it to hope that you pay you £25 a year and sign up to it. And as Andy says, we keep updating it week on week. It's literally week on week.
A lot of customers have commented recently that when they've had it for the year, they are renewing because they like the fact we keep it fresh and we add new videos all the time. So customers who've had the free year are still signing up again, which is great. It shows hopefully we're doing something right with what we're adding and changing the videos and keeping it fresh when something new comes out.
And the nice thing is there's really basic things in there, like resetting your trip and track data. But then there's videos on how to download Garmin, the bird's eye mapping, how to download the satellite imagery, how to get to view on you. So actually things that you're going to do once or twice, but actually when you do it again a year later or 2 years later, I can't remember how to do that. The video is there, but actually the things you do on a daily basis, there's video. So even if you're starting from a very low level, it's there, but actually more advanced things are there, aren't they? And the top tips that Andy does are really good. We have some good fun doing the top tips. Yeah. So again, there's loads of them there, unit specific, and there's base camp ones as well, and sat map ones. Yeah. So get yourself signed up, free for a month, and then hopefully you'll like what you see. So to finish off, podcast number 6. Many thanks for listening, and let us know if there's anything you would like to cover in future podcasts. Give us a call at GPS Training if you want any training on your GPS units. We do nationwide courses, and we also do webinars, which are these live seminars that we do in the evenings, and the online resource we've been talking about. And especially if you're thinking of upgrading or getting an outdoor GPS unit, just give us a call and we can guide you through that process. We've got some really good videos on the website showing you each of the units that we have. Tell a friend, please, about the podcast and also about GPS Training. So if you're in a walking group, can you spread the word a little bit about the podcast and also about GPS Training as a company. And don't forget, you can watch our recording of the podcast on our Facebook page, which is GPS Training UK, or on our YouTube channel, which is GPS Training. And please, please don't forget to subscribe and rate this podcast on whatever platform or podcast player you are listening on. Many thanks, Andy, for joining me on this, the 6th episode of GPS Training Podcast.
Thank you.
And again, thanks very much, Andy, for all your help getting this together. And if anybody's got any thoughts or feedback, don't hesitate and just give us a call. And we look forward to number 7 podcast next month. Thanks for listening.